Shalom, everybody, and Chag Hanukkah Sameach. Thank you for being here for Maoz Tzur, our nightly program for Hanukkah. I hope so very much that you have in your hands now Hanukkah and the light of Mashiach, and you apply those things and understand that Judah the Maccabee fought a real battle. It was a real battle against General Gorgias, who wanted to annihilate the Jewish people. So he took 7,000 people, stood against 50,000, and Judah the Maccabee cried out and he said, "We are going to die or win together. Now let us go and restore the name of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." The battle that he took, it was a spiritual battle that was won already way before the physical battle has started. And you should know it today, that the physical battle is just a mirror of the spiritual battle. Now I have a good news for you today, because you're in a battle. And as you're in a battle, somebody is there to fight for you and fight with you. Look with me for a moment at our beautiful Hanukkiah. In the middle we have the Shamash. And the Shamash that is right here in the middle has today 3 kanim, because we are on the 3rd day. In the first day we called him the Pele. He is your miracle. The second day we call him your Etz. He is your counselor. And tonight, brothers and sisters, he have another name that you need to know him by. He known by the name of El. He is the mighty God who fight for you, and he is fighting for you today. Believe this evening, brothers and sisters, believe this evening that he is fighting for you, and as he's fighting for you, you know that you will not lose this battle. So we stand today on the 3rd day on the name of El, Pele, Yoetz, and tonight in the El, and we ask you for the mighty God to fight for us every battle. every war. As you have done for the Judah the Maccabee, you are doing for us today. In the name, in the power of Yeshua, our Messiah, we cry and we say amen and amen as we enter into chapter 5 and chapter 6 of the first Maccabees with the Rebbetzin. God bless you. Let's go to war, and immediately after that to the lighting.
Chapter 5. Now when the nations round about heard that the altar was built and the sanctuary renewed as before, it displeased them very much. Wherefore they thought to destroy the generation of Jacob that was among them, and thereupon they began to slay and destroy the people. Then Judas fought against the children of Esau in Idumea at Rebbetzin, because they besieged Gaal, and he gave them a great overthrow, and abated their courage, and took their spoils. Also he remembered the injury of the children of Ben, who had been a snare and an offense unto the people, in that they lay in wait for them in the ways. He shut them up therefore in the towers, and encamped against them, and destroyed them utterly, and burned the towers of that place with fire, and all that were therein. Afterward he passed over to the children of Ammon, where he found a mighty power and much people, and Timotheus their captain. So he fought many battles with them, till at length they were discomfited before him, and he smote them. And when he had taken Jazer with the towns belonging thereto, he returned to Judea. Then the heathen that were at Gilad assembled themselves together against the Israelites that were in their quarters to destroy them. But they fled to the fortress of Dathama, and sent letters unto Judas and his brethren. The heathen that are round about us are assembled together against us to destroy us, and they are preparing to come and take the fortress, whereunto we are fled, Timotheus being captain of their host. Come now, therefore, and deliver us from their hands, for many of us are slain. Yea, all our brothers that are in the places of Tobi are put to death, their wives and their children also they have carried away captives, and borne away their stuff, and they have destroyed there about 1,000 men. While these letters were yet reading, behold, there came other messengers from Galilee with their clothes rent, who reported on the wise, and said, they of Ptolemais, and of Tyrus, and Sidon, and of Galilee, of all the Gentiles, are assembled together against us to consume us. Now when Judas and the people heard these words, there assembled a great congregation together, and to consult what they should do for their brethren, that they were in trouble and assaulted of them. Then said Judas to Simon his brother, choose thee out men, and go and deliver thy brethren that are in Galilee, for I and Jonathan my brother will go into the country of Galilee. So he left Joseph, the son of Zacharias, and Azarias, captains of the people, with the remnant of the host in Judea, to keep it. Unto whom he gave commandment, saying, take ye charge of this people, and see that you make not war against the heathen until the time that we come again. Now unto Simon were given 3,000 men to go into Galilee, and unto Judas 8,000 men for the country of Galilee. Then went Simon into Galilee, where he fought many battles with the heathen, so that the heathen were discomfited by him, and he pursued them unto the gate of Ptolemais. And there were slain of the heathen about 3,000 men, whose spoils he took. And those that were in Galilee and Rebbetzin with their wives and their children, and all that they had, took he away with him, and brought them into Judea with great joy. Judah Maccabees also and his brother Jonathan went over Jordan, and traveled 3 days' journey into the wilderness, where they met with the Nabathites, who came unto them in a peaceable manner, and told them everything that had happened to their brethren in the land of Galilee. and how that many of them were shut up in Besora and Basor and Alema and Casphor and Maked and Carmnaim. All these cities are strong and great, and they that were shut up in the rest of the cities of the country of Galaad. And that against tomorrow they had appointed to bring their host against the forts, and to take them, destroy them all in one day. Hereupon Judas and his host turned suddenly by the way of the wilderness unto Besora, and when he had won the city, he slew all the males with the edge of the sword, and took all their spoils, and burned the city with fire, from whence he removed by night, and went till he came to the fortress. And betimes in the morning they looked up, and behold, there was an innumerable people, bearing ladders and other engines of war, to take the fortress, for they assaulted them. When Judas therefore saw that the battle was begun, and that the cry of the city went up to heaven with trumpets and a great sound, he said unto his host, and cried with prayer. Then the host of Timotheus, knowing that it was Maccabees, fled from him, wherefore he smote them with a great slaughter, so that there were killed of them that day about 8,000 men. This done, Judas turned aside to Massa, and after he had assaulted it, he took it and slew all the males therein, and received the spoils thereof, and burnt it with fire. From thence he went and took Casphon, Maged, Besor, and other cities of the country of Galaad. After these things were gathered, Timotheus, another host, and encamped against Raphon beyond the brook. So Judas sent men to spy the host, who brought him word, saying, all the heathen that be round about us are assembled unto them, even a very great host. He hath also hired the Arabians to help them, and they have pitched their tents beyond the brook, ready to come and fight against thee. Upon this Judas went to meet them. Then Timotheus said unto the captains of his host, when Judas and his host come near the brook, if he pass over first unto us, we shall not be able to withstand him, for he will mightily prevail against me. But if he be afraid and camp beyond the river, we shall go over to him and prevail against him. Now when Judas came near the brook, he caused the scribes of the people to remain by the brook, unto whom he gave commandment, saying, suffer no man to remain in the camp, but let all come to the battle. So he went first over unto them, and all the people after him. Then all the heathen, being discomfited before him, cast away their weapons, and fled unto the temple that was at Carnaim. But they took the city and burned the temple with all that were therein. Thus was Carnaim subdued, neither could they stand any longer before Judas. Then Judas gathered together all the Israelites that were in the country of Galaad, from the least to the greatest, even their wives, even their children, and their stuff, a very great host, to the end that they may come into the land of Judea. Now when they came unto Ephron, this was a great city in the way as they should go, very well fortified, that they could not turn from it, either on the right hand nor the left, but needs pass through the midst of it. Then they of the city shut them out, and stopped up the gates with stones, whereupon Judas sent unto them in peaceable manner, saying, let us pass through your land to go into our own country, and none shall do you any hurt. We will only pass through on foot. Howbeit they would not open unto him. Wherefore Judas commanded a proclamation to be made throughout the host, that every man should pitch his tent in the place where he was. So the soldiers pitched and assaulted the city all that day and all that night, till at length the city was delivered into his hands, who then slew all the males with the edge of the sword, and razed the city, and took the spoils thereof, and passed through the city over them that were slain. After this they went over Jordan into the great plain before Bethsan. And Judas gathered together those who came behind, and exhorted the people all the way through, till they came into the land of Judea. So they went up to Mount Zion with joy and gladness, where they offered burnt offerings, because not one of them were slain, and they had all returned in peace. Now what time as Judas Judas and Jonathan were in the land of Galaad, and Simon, his brother, in Galilee before Ptolemais, Joseph the son of Zacharias and Azarias, the captains of the garrisons, heard of the valiant acts and warlike deeds which they had done. Wherefore they said, let us go get a name and go fight against the heathen that are round about us. And when they had given charge unto the garrison that was with them, they went toward Gemniah. Then came Gorgias and his men out of the city to fight against them. And so it was that Joseph and Azarias were put to flight and pursued into the borders of Judea. And there were slain that day of people of Israel about 2,000 men. Thus there was a great overthrow among the children of Israel, because they were not obedient unto Judas and his brethren, but thought to do some valiant act. Moreover, these men came out not of the seed of those whose by hand deliverance was given unto Israel. Howbeit the man Judas and his brother were greatly renowned in the sight of all Israel, and all of the heathen, wheresoever their name was heard, insomuch as the people assembled unto them with joyful acclamations. Afterward went Judas forth with his brethren, and fought against the children of Esau in the land toward the south, where he smote Hebron and the towns thereof, and pulled down the fortress of it, and burned the towers thereof round about. From thence he removed to go into the land of the Philistines, and passed through Samaria. At that time certain priests, desirous to show their valor, were slain in battle, for that they went out fighting unadvisedly. So Judas returned to Azotus in the land of the Philistines, and when he had pulled down their altars and burned their carved images with fire and spoiled their cities, he returned into the land of Judea.
Lie, 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 for 8 days and nights, happy Hanukkah, the miracle of lights, happy Hanukkah. We remember how the Maccabees came to Jerusalem. Within the battered temple walls, a drop of oil they found. Its light would be a sign of God's presence in that shrine. And though there was but one small drop, it shined and shined and shined. 8 days and nights, happy Hanukkah, a miracle of lights, happy Hanukkah. We celebrate the spirit of a hope that would not die. When all seemed lost, the Maccabees had faith that did survive. So candles we will light for each of those 8 nights, and like a drop of oil they found, our candles will burn bright. La 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 la, happy Hanukkah. La 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 la, happy Hanukkah. So people gather round, let's sing a song of cheer. This is a special season, a joyous time of year. We recall the story of another place and time, of the Maccabees, the temple, and a drop of oil that shined and shined and shined. Line, line, happy Hanukkah, it shine and shine. La la, happy Hanukkah, shined and shined.
Chapter 6. About that time, King Antiochus, traveling through the high countries, heard say that Elamias in the country of Persia was a city greatly renowned for riches, silver and gold, and that there was in it a very rich temple, wherein were coverings of gold and breastplates and shields, which Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian king, who reigned first among the Grecians, had left there. Wherefore he came and sought to take the city and to spoil it, but he was not able, because they of the city, having had warning thereof, rose up against him in battle. So he fled and departed thence with great heaviness and returned to Babylon. Moreover, there came one who brought with him tidings into Persia, that the armies which went against the land of Judea were put to flight, and that Lysias, who went forth first with great power, was driven away of the Jews, and that they were made strong by the armor and power and store of spoils which they had gotten of the armies whom they had destroyed. Also they had pulled down the abomination which he had set up upon the altar of Jerusalem, and that they had compassed about the sanctuary with high walls as before, and his city Bethsura. Now when the king heard these words, he was astonished and sore moved, whereupon he laid him down on his bed and fell sick for grief, because it had not befallen him as he had looked for. And there he continued for many days, for his grief was ever more and more, and he made account that he should die. Wherefore he called for all his friends and said unto them, The sleep is gone from mine eyes, my heart has failed for very care. And I thought myself, into what tribulation am I come, and how great a flood of misery is it wherein now I am? For I was bountiful and beloved in my power, but now I remember the evils that I did at Jerusalem, and that I took all the vessels of gold and silver that were therein, and sent to destroy the inhabitants of Judea without a cause. I perceive, therefore, that these troubles are come upon me, and behold, I perish through grief in a strange land. Then called he for Philip, one of his friends, who he made ruler over all his realm. He gave him the crown and his robe and his signet, to the end he should bring up his son Antiochus and nourish him up for the kingdom. So King Antiochus died there in 149th year. Now when Lysias knew that the king was dead, he set up Antiochus his son, whom he had brought up being young, to reign in his stead, and his name he called Eupator. About this time, they that were in the tower shut up the Israelites round about the sanctuary, and sought always their hurt and the strengthening of the heathen. Wherefore Judas, purposing to destroy them, called all the people together to besiege them. So they came together and besieged them in the 150th year, and he made mounts for shot against them and other engines. Howbeit certain of them that were besieged got forth, unto whom some ungodly men of Israel joined themselves, and they went unto the king and said, How long will it be ere thou execute judgment and avenge our brethren? We have been willing to serve thy father, and to do as he would have us, and to obey his commands, for which cause they of our nations besiege the tower, and are alienated from us. Moreover, as many of us as they could light on, they slew, and spoiled our inheritance. Neither have they stretched out their hand against us only, but also against their borders. And behold, this day are they besieging the tower at Jerusalem to take it. The sanctuary also and Bethsura they have fortified. Wherefore, if thou dost not prevent them quickly, they will do the greater things than these. Neither shalt thou be able to rule them. Now, when the king heard this, he was angry, and gathered together all his friends and the captains of his army, and those that had charge of the horse. And there came unto him from other kingdoms, and from isles from the seas, bands of hired soldiers, so that the number of his army was 100,000 footmen, 20,000 horsemen, 32 elephants exercised in battle. These went through Idumea and pitched against Basura, which they assaulted many days, making engines of war. But they of Basura came out and burned them with fire and fought valiantly. Upon this, Judas removed from the tower and pitched in Beth-Zacharias over against the king's camp. Then the king, rising very early, marched fiercely with his host toward Beth-Zacharias, where his armies made them ready for battle and sounded the trumpets. To the end that they might provide the elephants to fight, they showed them the blood of grapes and mulberries. Moreover, they divided the beast among the armies, and for every elephant they appointed 1,000 men, armed with coats of mail and with helmets of brass on their head. And beside this, for every beast were ordained 500 horsemen of the best. These were ready at every occasion, wheresoever the beast was, and whithersoever the beast went, they also went. Neither departed they from him. And upon the beast were there strong towers of wood, which covered every one of them, and were girt fast onto them with devices. There were also upon every one 32 strong men that fought upon them, beside the Indian that ruled them. As for the remnant of the horsemen, they set them on the side, and that side at the two parts of the host, giving them signs what to do, and being harnessed all over amidst the ranks. Now when the sun shone upon the fields and shields of gold and brass, the mountains glistened therewith and shined like lamps of fire. So part of the king's army, being spread upon the high mountains and part of the valleys on the valleys below, they marched on safely and in order. Wherefore all that heard the noise of their multitude and the marching of the company and the rattling of the harnesses were moved, for the army was very great and mighty. And Judas and his host drew near and entered into battle, and there were slain of the king's army 600 men. Eleazar, also named Savaron, perceiving that one of the beasts armed with royal harnesses was higher than all the rest, and supposing that the king was upon him, put himself in jeopardy to the end that he might deliver his people and get him a perpetual name. Wherefore he ran upon him courageously through the midst of the battle, slaying on the right hand and on the left, so they were divided from him on both sides. Which done, he crept under the elephant and thrust him under and slew him, whereupon the elephant fell down upon him, and there he died. Howbeit the rest of the Jews, seeing the strength of the king and the violence of his forces, turned away from them. Then the king's army went up to Jerusalem to meet them, and the king pitched his tents against Judea and against Mount Zion. But with them that were in Basura he made peace, for they came out of the city, because they had no victuals there to endure the siege, it being a year of rest to the land. So the king took Basura and set a garrison there to keep it. As for the sanctuary, he besieged it many days and set their artillery with engines and instruments to cast fire and stones and pieces to cast darts and slings. Whereupon they also made engines against their engines and held them battle a long season. Yet at the last, their vessels being without victuals, for that was the 7th year they were in Judea, that they were delivered from the Gentiles, had eaten up the residue of the store. There were but a few left in the sanctuary, because the famine did so prevail against them, that they were fain to disperse themselves, every man to his own place. At that time Lysias heard say that Philip, whom Antiochus the king, while he lived, had appointed to bring up his son Antiochus, that he might be king, was returned out of Persia and Media, and his king's host also went with him, that he sought to make unto him the ruling of affairs. Wherefore he went in all haste and said to the king and the captains of the host and the company, We decay daily, and our victuals are but small, and the place we laid siege unto is strong, and the affairs of the kingdom lie upon us. Now therefore let us be friends with these men. Let us make peace with them and with all their nation, and covenant with them, that they shall live after their laws, as they did before. For they are therefore displeased, and have done all these things, because we abolished their laws. So the king and the princes were content. Wherefore he said unto them to make peace, and they accepted thereof. Also the king and the princes made an oath unto them, whereupon they went out of the stronghold, and the king entered into Mount Zion. But when he saw the strength of the place, he broke his oath that he had made, and gave commandment to pull the wall round about. Afterward departed he in haste, and returned unto Antioch, where he found Philip to be the master of the city. So he fought against him, and took the city by force.
אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של חנוכה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשה ניסים לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה. הנרות הללו שאנו מדליקים, הנרות הללו שאנו מדליקים, על הניסים ועל הנפלאות ועל התשועות ועל המלחמות שעשית לאבותינו, שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה, בימים ההם בזמן הזה.
Maoz Yeshuati Rabbi Shapira Tikon Beit Tefilati V'shan Potan Nizabea Le'etachin Matea Mitzar Hamnavea Azek Mor Beshir Mizmor Hanukkiah Amizbeach Azek Mor Beshir Mizmor Hanukkiah Amizbeach. Rock of ages, let our song praise your saving power. You amid the raging foes were our sheltering tower. Furious they assailed us, but your arm availed us, and your wood broke their sword when our own strength failed us, and your wood broke their swords when our own strength failed us.
Shalom friends, welcome to the third night of Hanukkah. I hope you're blessed by this programming. And we're on the third Varacha today. And tonight I would like to speak to you a bit about the lighting of the candles. It says the following: according to our tradition, the order of lighting the menorah, as recorded in Shulchan Aruch, is as following. The first night you kindle the light facing the right hand, and on the second night you add to the one to the left. Similarly, on each subsequent night you add one light to the left, to the light to the added and always kindled first, as you continue lighting toward the right. In essence, what you do is, if you face the Hanukkiah, you put your candles from right to left, but you light left to right. Now, there was been a great machloket during the time of Hillel and Shammai how the Hanukkiah should be lit. It was Shammai who says that you should place 8 on the first night and count down 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and so on. But it was the view of Hillel that you should count from 1 until the 8. The house of Israel received ultimately the view of Hillel, because Hillel explained that it is the light that should be increasing every day rather than decreasing. One should never view himself as he already reached a plateau or reached a maximum. We continue to want to reach higher and higher, to a higher and higher madrega, and this is an important part of Hanukkah. Now the question is, why do we go from left to right? Because most people are right-handed, and we're going from the left to right. You see, the left represents our weakness, our weak side. The right represents the arm of the Lord. In essence, we are asking God that even in our own weaknesses, we're lighting from left to right, that He will strengthen us. The right hand of God will strengthen us. So remember, we light from left to right, but we place them from right to left. This is the halacha of today, and let us increase on a daily basis.
Chag Hanukkah Sameach, everyone. My name is Rabbi Shapira, and we are the Al Anisim Band, joining you here for night 3 of Hanukkah. First 2 nights have been amazing, but every night is just going to get better and better and better. Everyone loves Hanukkah. I love Hanukkah, and I love sharing Hanukkah with all my friends here around the world. I'm very thankful to have you all here. Al Hanisim ve'al Hapurkan ועל הגבורות, ועל התשועות, ועל הנפלאות שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה. ועל הנפלאות שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה. Let them grin, everyone. ועל הניסים ועל הפורקן ועל הגבורות ועל התשועות ועל הנפלאות שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה. ועל הניסים ועל הפורקן ועל הגבורות ועל התשובות ועל הנפלאות שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה. ועל הניסים ועל הפורקן ועל הגבורות ועל התשובות ועל הנפלאות שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה. ועל הניסים ועל הפורקן ועל הגבורות ועל התשובות ועל הנפלאות שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם נסוף, נס גדול היה פה. סוף נסוף, סוף נסוף, נס גדול היה פה. זה ליבון, סוף סוף סוף, חנוכה הוא חדור, חנוכה הוא חדור. זה ליבון, סוף סוף סוף, סוף נסוף, סוף נסוף, נס גדול היה פה. סוף נסוף, סוף נסוף, נס גדול היה פה. סוף נסוף, נס גדול היה פה. פלא יועץ אל גיבור שר שלום ישוע מלך המלכים אדוני פלא יועץ אל גיבור שר שלום ישוע מלך המלכים אדוני לה 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 שלום ישוע מלך המלכים אדוני חג חנוכה שמח everyone.
I would like to talk to you today in the parasha on the title that I see in this portion. The inner Isav and Hanukkah. Parashat Vayeshev. You're probably wondering what is the connection between Parashat Vayeshev to the story of Hanukkah. I would like to tell you that there is much connection in this portion to not just the Geulah, but in Parashat Vayeshev specifically to Hanukkah, as we're going to learn in a minute. Earlier today, I've been teaching you that the entire story of Hanukkah is related to the merits of Yaakov. As a matter of fact, when we talk about merits, or in Hebrew the word zchut, we know that the merits of the fathers goes like this. Abraham is a representative of chesed or grace. Isaac is a representation of the Gevurah, and Yaakov is the representative of Emet. Those three principles, Chesed, Gevurah, and Emet, are where do we get the merit. For example, when we pray the Amidah prayer, we are praying in the merit of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As you know, the name of Yaakov, Jacob, Yud Ayin Kuf Bet, sometimes spell Yud Ayin Kuf Vav Bet. The reason that the letter Vav is entered into the name of Yaakov, because the Vav, and matter of fact is mentioned twice, the two Vavs are related to the Hebrew word Yavan, Yod, Vav, Vav, Nun. The two Vav, the word Yavan, by the way, mean Greece, talking about the Galut of the Greek Empire, okay? The one that's specifically related to Hanukkah. Chazal tell us that the entire story of Hanukkah somehow related to Yaakov our father. So today we are going to look specifically into this. Now, when we look at the life of Jacob, I would like to explain to you, we are actually seeing the complete picture of not just the Geulah, but what I call the Chibur of the Olamot. Chibur means the unification of the Olamot, right? 4 Galuyot, 4 exiles, 4 kingdoms, and I also teach you that there are 4 worlds. There are 4 worlds, and I will kind of divide those to you as you notice that the life of Jacob, and again, pay attention to this and remember the rule that guides us when we study Torah. It is Rabbi David Kimchi who says that the sign, the work of the fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is the signs to the sons, to us today. And the life of Jacob is taking the span of 4 parshiot, actually. The very first one, it's called Parashat Toldot. The second one is called Parashat Vayetze. The third one called Parashat Vayishlach. And the one we are today, the conclusion of Jacob's life, is in Parashat Vayeshev, where really Jacob is being discussed. Now, I want you to notice something. There are different colors. I put a different colors on your screen because I would like to explain to you something about the lifespan of Jacob as it's related to the Keulah and to the worlds. The first 2 parshiot, Parashat Toldot and Parashat Vayetze, dealing with the tikkunim that Jacob had to do. He had to fight for Rachel, he had to marry Leah, he had to go to do a tikkun with Laban. Those were what we call the ulam of the Asiya, the world of doing, the world of the creation. It is the natural, the tikkunim that we are doing today. That is one dimension of the life of Yaakov. The second dimension of the life of Yaakov comes in Parashat Vayishlach. This parasha specifically deals with the reconciliation between Yaakov and between Esav, or the attempt to reconciliation. You see, this parasha specifically, dealing because Esav live according to rabbinic Judaism in a world that's called the world of the Torah. It's another world, it's another dimension, another realm where he tried to redeem Esav. So you see him going kind of from the physical world to the another dimension called the Olam of the Torah. And then in this portion, we are kind of Be'olam Haba. We're in the world to come. Vayeshev, he's returning to Canaan. It is talking about the last stage, which is called the stage of the Geulah. Okay, so you're kind of seeing Yaakov going through the world of the physical to the world of the connection with Esav, or the tikkun, the heavenly tikkun with Esav, all the way to the Olam Haba. This is a prophetic picture for all of Israel today. Remember, Yaakov is a representation of the house of Israel. Now, I want you to notice something about the life cycle of Yaakov. Yaakov started with, in Parashat Toldot, it started with Vaitrotzetsu abanim bekirba. The children they are struggling in the womb. The life of Yaakov, when he started the tikkunim, Parashat Toldot, start with what I call the machloket. Okay, the machloket. Now, we learn that every machloket for the sake of heaven is a good machloket to have. And when we talk about Geulah, when we talk about redemption, we are actually always have to start with a conflict. Please understand it. And the conflict for the division of the world between Yaakov and Esav has been in the very, 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 very core of this. Now, in Hanukkah, we celebrate the exile from the Galuyot through the life of Yaakov. But notice that in the redemptive life cycle, before we can have a true redemption, we have to go through a second stage, Vayetze. Remember, Vayetze, it is when Yaakov is leaving, Sulam Yaakov, he is leaving Canaan and he is going to the Galut. Okay, the exile is an important part of salvation. Please understand that. And Yaakov, just like Israel, have to go through a galut. Kind of to explain to you where we are right now in this prophetic world cycle, we have had a machloket for over 2,000 years. We are still in the stage of the galut, and here we are getting to the third stage, which is the stage of reconciliation. This is when Yaakov again sent the Malachim to reconcile with Esav. And the essence of the message of Hanukkah has to do with this reconciliation and also looking for the next step. What's after the reconciliation? What is going to happen when Israel reconcile with Mashiach? What's going to happen next? Israel is going to be dwelling, Vayashev. It's appeared that is something very, very important. So if you want to look at this, I put question mark, the word Vayashev, speaking about the fourth state, which is the stage of Geula. The last stage is the stage of Geula. So we're going from machloket, from division, to the exile, to reconciliation, to the Geula. And you see all of those things through the life of Jacob. All the life of Jacob has to do with one thing, with Dikun. I want you to notice that all of those words, Vayetze, Vayeshlach, Vayeshev, represent verbs. Why do they represent a verb? Because they are a picture of the tikkunim that you have to do. And we see here a progression in the Geula. This is important, friends. We've been teaching about this again and again, over and over again. A Geula is a process. It's like making your stew, your favorite stew. You don't just automatically make it. It takes time for this to simmer, the Geula, okay? And we've seen it in the life of Yaakov. There are specifically, Chazal come and teach us, 2 stages of Geula. We are going to look at those today. Now, the Geula did not, this is important to understand, although Esav and Yaakov appear to be reconciled, we learned last week in the Parashat Vayishlach that Esav actually rejected the reconciliation from Yaakov. Therefore, we are still right now in the third stage. We are in the stage of reconciliation. That's what I believe that is our call as Messianic Jews, to be part of the reconciliation between Judaism and Christianity, between Yaakov and Esav. Now the question is, what the connection to Hanukkah? Where is the connection to Hanukkah? We continue today to be in this third stage, the stage of the Galut, and the question we ask ourselves, especially as we read Daniel chapter 7 and Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, when we talk about the fourth Galut, the last Galut, is how do we break out of this Galut? What do we need to do in these last days? And what does it have to do with the story of Hanukkah? There is a rule that is given us by Chazal. And this is the rule that I would like to explain to you as we talk about the progression of the 2 layers of the Geula. And it's go like this, and it says, Geula pratit shetovil legeula klalit. Which literally translated like this, a private salvation. Individual salvation is a salvation that is leading to the ultimate salvation. For example, in the Adon Olam prayer that most of you know and probably familiar with, we praying and we said, in his hand I will put my spirit, right? When I asleep and when I am awake, we are preparing to receive a personal resurrection. Or when we say in the morning, Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam, we believing for the power of our individual resurrection. But do you know that according to our tradition as Faradim, in the next line in the prayer we call this, and we said that in this day, that this happened when we have this personal Geula, a complete Geula for us completely as an individual. And this point, the Mashiach will appear. And in this point, he will reestablish the temple, and he will even teach us how to pronounce God's name. That's actually what it says in the Adon Olam. The Geula Pratit in the life of Yaakov is a sign for us today that can lead to the complete Geula. In essence, what I would like to challenge you with today is with the question, are you saved? Are you as an individual truly saved? How do you know that you are saved? I would like you to notice some shocking words in this portion. Remember that this portion has to deal with the Geula of Yaakov. He ran the race. He went out of the land. He reconciled with his brother. And here in his end of his life, the end of his life, the Torah portion start with the following word. Follow it with me. It says, Vayeshev Yaakov ba'eretz megurei aviv. Be'eretz megurei aviv, be'eretz Canaan. And Jacob dwelt in the land of his father sojournings, in the land of Canaan. I would like to stop there for a moment and talk to you about this. The Torah portion called Parashat Vayeshev. Yaakov is tired, he's toward the end of his life, and he say, I have ran the race. My race is done. I am going to learn and sit, and then my last days I am going to spend in peace. Is there anything wrong with this? There is nothing wrong with this. And as a matter of fact, Chazal are being very critical about Yaakov. They said that the trouble in Yaakov's life started when he decided to, the word yeshev, like the word yeshiva, mean to sit down. And I want you to listen to what it says in the Yalkut Shimoni. It says the following, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, Kol makom, in every place in the scripture, sheneemar vayeshev, that we read the word vayeshev, eino ela lashon tsa'ar. It's a place of grievance, a grievance to the Holy Spirit, to God. For example, in the book of Numbers, Numbers 25, verse 1, it says, Vayeshev Israel bishittim. It's a terrible, terrible thing. Please understand something. He went through the full cycle. He went and make every tikkun he could. His life is a perfect life at this point. He made all the tikkunim, all the avodah, all the mitzvot, and all what he wanted to do is to dwell. But Chazal says the following. They said, and they give the example, Vayeshev ha'am le'echol, when it says Vayeshev ha'am le'echol, Vayeshev Israel veYehuda, every time that we see the word Vayeshev, and he sat, Chazal said there is going to be a big trouble. As a matter of fact, Chazal said, when he returned to the land, listen to this, this is amazing. They are connected it to Abraham, his grandfather. It says, Vayeshev Yaakov, and I wanted to see this word, Be'eretz, let's go back to the text, Be'eretz megurei aviv. Why did it says, he didn't say he returned to Canaan first. First he says he returned to his father's sojourning. Here the Yalkut Shimoni is saying something else. It says because Abraham did something very, very important in the land. Abraham made souls. Abraham made converts to the God of Israel. They say, Abraham gier gerim. Gerim. When he returned to the land, that was what God expected Yaakov to do. Okay? To do exactly. And actually, Chazal quote Genesis 12, where it says, Ve'et anefesh asher asu becharan. Yaakov's job, when he got to the land, was to continue the work of Abraham, to continue to extend the dwelling point, the dwelling house, the sukkah of Avraham Avinu. But instead of that, he didn't want to do this. He wanted to do something else. What did he want to do, you ask? Listen to what our commentator said on that. Let's go to Orach Chaim as our starting to conversation. He says the following. I believe that the plain meaning of the verse is what the other sages say. Namely, that Jacob wanted to enjoy peace and quiet in the world. Let's stop there And let's talk about this for a second. Yaakov just wanted to go to a retirement house. He wanted to have peace and quiet without any more drama because he felt that God is done with him. This is a dangerous place to be. Look at the next verse by Or HaChaim. As a result, he suffered the upsetting of Joseph. He experienced with Joseph literally mean the sale. All of what happened to Joseph, are you following what I'm telling you now? Everything that happened to Joseph is all blamed on Yaakov's desire to enjoy peace and serenity on the face of the earth. You know, I have this kippah. I have it, this hat. It says Rabbi on vacation. Between December 24th to January 4th, don't call me, don't bother me. Yaakov had this hat on. Yaakov on permanent vacation. And that's why he was going. He just wanted to have good times, you know. But look what Or HaChaim telling us. He is telling that even what happened to Joseph happened because of Yaakov. Because Yaakov dropped the guard. And the matter of fact, Or HaChaim continues to say, we therefore must understand the verse. Jacob wanted to settle down. The consequence of Jacob settling down was Joseph's sale. The Torah teaches us a basic lesson that man bring upon himself whatever befalls him. Harm does not originate with God, who is the source of all the good. By definition, Jacob was not an exception to the rule. This is significant. Chazal here is speaking in one voice, and he's telling us when he says Vayeshev. Actually, let's go back to the text of the verse. Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz megurei aviv be'eretz Canaan. There are two things I want you to pay attention to. The first thing is the word Canaan, the land. He was supposed to continue sort of speaking the family business. The second thing that he was supposed to do was to dwell and continue the work of his grandfather. And a matter of fact, listen to what Rashi is saying. Rashi says in his commentary, he says, all what Yaakov wanted to do is to sit in what's called the shalva, in peace and quiet. And here Rashi asks the question, we need to understand what is the great sin of having some peace and quiet in the world, okay? Because we see many tzaddiks who dwell in peace and quiet. Listen to this. Listen to this. This is important. Chazal tell us that although the goal of Yaakov leshevet beshalva, and listen to that, he wanted to sit in peace and quiet, Chazal says, so that he can study Torah. He wanted to have a little shul, a little synagogue, call it the house of Jacob shul, in a corner house, and say, that's all what I'm going to do. I'm going to have shacharit, mincha, arvit. I am not going to do outreaches. I am just going to build my little shul there. That's what he said. He wanted to do. It sounds very innocent. לעסוק בתורה ועבודה ללא מפריע לכאורה. To do work of Torah without any hindrances. Listen to what Chazal said. This is amazing. אין לך תאווה כשרה מזאת. Okay? There is nothing worse than this in the world. There is nothing that can be worse in the world than what Jacob was asking for. And they say, Chazal, Tachlit biyat adam, the essence of us today in this world, in this last stage, B'holam hazeh, in this world, לא לעבודה מתוך שלווה ומנוחה. If you want to do work because you want to find peace and quiet, Chazal said, forget it. Your starting point is wrong. Some of us want to do avodah, But we want to do avodah when it's fit our time schedule, when things are okay in our life. But Chazal said, no, on the opposite. The avodah has to do mitoch adachak. You know what the word the dachak mean? When you don't have food on your table, when you don't have money to pay your bill, when everything fall apart in your life, that's when Chazal said that you do the avodah. That's the avodah that is important to Hashem. The avodah that is important to Hashem is not when you do it out of abundance. The avodah that you're doing is the avodah that you do mitoch adachak. והרי הנרצית. That is the work הנדרשת מן האדם. This is the essence of the avodah. And the avodah lishma, a Torah for its own sake. Okay? And as Rabbi Eliyahu said, Rabbi Eliyahu said, listen to this, I love this. Tov achat batza'ar. It is good to do one mitzvah in pain from 100 mitzvot that done out of, casualness, because it's convenience, out of convenience. This is really important to understand it. The entire concept of the yeshiva of Yaakov is not that he didn't want to do anything. He wanted to do things, but he wanted to do things in his own way, because he felt that the Geulah for his life, right? Remember, I spoke about the personal Geulah that lead to the corporate Geulah, the Geulah pratit, that lead to the Geulah klalit. Do you want to bring it again? The Geulah pratit שתוביל לגאולה כללית. Here it's what it says in the context of the parasha this week. The Geulah pratit, the personal salvation, he felt it's complete already. And he said, all what I need to do now is apply some defense. I will do things, but I will not push the boundaries. You notice something about people that they get older? When people get older, they stop pushing the boundaries, right? It's like your life insurance. If you get a life insurance, you're in the 20s, you will pay $20. If you're in your 60s, you're going to pay like $100. Why? Because, you're getting older. You don't like to push the envelope too much. You don't like to rattle too much feathers. God help us if we get to this point. That's where the Tzur has started for Yaakov. And let me tell you something, that every galut that happened to the Jewish people, I'm going to say something controversial, is when the Jewish people felt that they don't have to push the envelope. 1940s. In the 1930s, the Jews become Hellenized completely in Europe. And that's why God brought the Holocaust upon our people. Why? Because we became too much like everybody else. We said we have the God of Israel, but we're not going to push it too hard. And that's what Yavan represent. Yavan represent a tiger. The animal is a tiger. A tiger is a person that's aggressive. And God says, you're going to have to become aggressive in order to come the third galut, the galut that led to Hanukkah in essence. Are you following what I'm saying? Remember, though, he's in his end of his life. We're looking at prophecy. And look what he said. וישב יעקב בארץ מגורי אביו, בארץ כנען. Chazal come and says to us, wait a second, time out, pay close attention so you understand what he's talking about. The Hebrew word Knaan is equivalent in Gematria to the number 190, which is equivalent, Chazal is telling us, to the word ketz. Can you put it up? The word ketz in Hebrew mean the end. This is very, very significant. In essence, what I am trying to tell you, although we are in the end right now, and some of us in the end of our life, some of us understand that we're in the end of our season. And I'm telling you, as long as you are here, as long as you are alive, as long as you have breath, you cannot afford to sit. This is an important message from Hanukkah that is coming to us this week. That is the message of Hanukkah. You're going to see this in a second. Just because, I am going and I hear it in the churches and I cry. I was recently in a Christian conference and one of the very most famous televangelists in the world stood up on the stage and he gave this message, and here's the gist of the message. I can't wait to Yeshua to come and to rapture us and to take us to heaven. Let us really focus on that. You know that this is the same spirit that Yaakov had? He says, I can't wait to the end of my life. I've been there and I've done that. And let me tell you, God has more for each and every one of you, even in the end of your life. Even in the last day, you need to know that even if this is your last day today, God has a plan for you. If you are here and if you're breathing right now and you're watching me, it means that God has a plan for you. It is true. And a matter of fact, the very next verse, I want you to notice, you're going to see the entire play of Geulah. So now we learn that even in the Geulah, even when the Geulah will come, we still not going to be sitting. You realize it? People ask me all the time the question, what's going to happen when Yeshua going to come and reign here? What do you think is going to happen? There will be a Bet Mikdash, there will be a temple, and we are going to work in this temple. We are going to do the different avodot that Mashiach has for us to do. We are still going to work. There's not going to be sitting, never. That's our big problem as Jewish people. We forget sometimes that God called us to run and to make the gerim. As a matter of fact, we talk about this in the context of the book of Numbers, chapter 10, verse 35 and 36. And the ark will travel, Moses will say, arise, O Lord, let your enemy be scattered. And you notice the two noons in the text, upside down. Why are they upside down? Because the next verse we read in the prayer, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah u'devar Hashem miYerushalayim. Only when Israel start to take the Torah, continue the work of Avraham Avinu, the Geulah will come to the world. The problem was happening here, in essence, what I'm saying is that Yaakov was delaying the Geulah. He says, I don't have anything to give. That's shtuyot. You have something to give. Each and every one of you have something to give. We have something to give. Don't think you don't have something to give. Matter of fact, look at the very next verse. Ele toldot Yaakov Yosef ben 17 שנה היה רואה אחיו בצאן. These are the generation of Jacob. Now, in your Bible, there is a comma or a period, and then it's immediately going to Joseph. This is very, very odd, right? Didn't Jacob have other sons? Oh, yes. He had many other sons. Please understand that when you sing it, Ele toldot Yaakov Yosef, you're singing those two words, Jacob and Yosef, in the same syllable. You do not stop with the name Yaakov. Yaakov and Yosef are connected together. This is very, very important. Okay? Yaakov still had a job to do, but the job has not been completed. That's why Yosef and Yaakov's name are together. Yosef, who is the son of Yaakov, came to complete the job that Yaakov was supposed to complete, just as Yaakov was supposed to be completing the job of Abraham. Yaakov did not complete the job of Abraham, so his son Yosef is going to be completing the job of Yaakov. Are you following what I'm telling you? Sound a little bit confusing, but hopefully it is not. Look at this, the text. I highlighted to you in blue. Jacob and Yosef are together. In the Haftarah this week, the Midrash also explained to us why they're named together. If we read about the generation of Yaakov, we should not see Yosef mentioned behind it. This is what known in Hebrew as a remez, a linguistic clue. It is talking about the job that Yaakov had to do. Yaakov had to do a job, not in his own life, but in his life of his brother Esau. Do you remember Esau? The tikkun with Esau was not complete yet. So here Yosef is going to come to do the complete with his uncle. Well, you say, what? How is that play out? Well, let's understand it all through a prophetic lens. Look at me, or with me, I should say. Look with me, not at me. I'm not important. Look with me at Ovadia 118, the Haftarah this week. Vehaya bet Yaakov esh, ubet Yosef lehava, ubet Esav lekash, udalku baim. This is amazing. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esav will be like a stubble, and they shall kindle it in them and devour them. Are you following what I'm telling you? Yaakov had a fire, but he needed the spark. And the spark that will come, the fire that will come, will use to burn Esav. Why? Why destroying Esav? If you learn with me in the last few weeks, I would like to remind you something. Esav, in his pnimiut, in his internality, was higher merit of Yaakov, because he belonged to a world above the world of the Torah. It's called the world of the Torah. It is surrounded by what we call a klipa, a shell of some sort. And the job of Yaakov, this is the job of the house of Israel, is to go and to make a convert, to bring people outside of the klipa, the spirit of Esav. This is the greatest job of the Jews in the world. Bring people outside of those things. And how is it going to happen? It is going to happen not just from Yaakov, from the Jewish people. It's going to happen through somebody named Yosef. Who is Yosef, friends? Yosef is a picture of the Messiah, son of Joseph. In essence, when Israel and the Messiah will partner together for the right cause of bringing the Tum'ah outside of Esav, all the reconciliation, the Geulah will come. And you see, Yaakov just gave up on it. Yaakov said, forget it, I'm not going to go again, Esav again. That's why Yosef is so important. Yosef is the one who is going to bring this ultimate reconciliation together with Yaakov. Why do I focus on sharing the good news and bringing Torah to the world? Why do we do so much labor? Because somehow Yaakov, the Jewish people, and Yosef, the Messiah, have to be kindled together. Just like when we light a Hanukkiah and we light it together. This is what the fire represents. A fire that can come and take something and burn and consume Esav. Please make no mistake. Esav, Christianity as we know it today, will be destroyed in the last days. No doubt about it. But you know who will remain? There is a remnant inside the church today. There is a remnant Christians inside the church. They are going to be spared. And our job as Jews is to light the house of Yaakov and with the Mashiach, so we can burn Esav. We can burn Christianity as we know it, and to bring out the remnant from the church. Are you following what I'm telling you today? I know that this is a prophetic thing, and you probably am going to get a lot of hate mails from you. That's okay. That's okay, you know what? Because this is what the scripture says. This is not me. That's why Even Ezra, you want to argue with me? Argue with Even Ezra. Even Ezra says here, the reason it's mentioned Bet Yaakov, and by the way, you look at the language, Bet Yaakov and Bet Yosef. Yaakov and Joseph have to team up together. And look what he says. Even Ezra says, Hatam kaful. There is duality and plurality. Ve'izkir Yosef keneged Yaakov Yosef. The reason that Joseph is mentioned, because Yosef and Yaakov have to partner together. Are you following what I'm telling you? This is the last step in Geulah right now. We are in the last. We have to rekindle the spark of the Mashiach, son of Joseph. Hanukkah is a picture of rekindling the Hanukkiah, the light of Mashiach, son of Yosef. As a matter of fact, even Rashi himself on Ovadia 1 says the following. He says, one spark will emerge from Yosef, which will destroy and consume the entire house of Esau. ניצוץ יצא מיוסף שמכלה ושורף את כולם. Let me tell you something. When this srefa will start, Chazal has asked the question, what is going to be burned down? What is burned down? And they give an analogy of Esau, the last galut. It's called the galut of Edom. And they give an example of a prisoner that is inside a prison. He's in a compound. And the compound is surrounded by walls. And they say this light, this match that come from the Mashiach, son of Joseph, that will join himself to Yaakov, to Israel, will burn, and I use the exact language from Chazal, will burn the walls of the Galut. We want the Galut to be over. We want Mashiach to come. We want to see Hanukkah celebrate with Mashiach in the temple. We want Mashiach, don't we? All what we have to do right now is to burn the walls of the Galut. And that can happen only when Israel and Mashiach ben Yosef join together. Chazal explained to us that Hanukkah represents exactly that, according to the prophet Ovadia. Marriage between Israel and Mashiach, son of Yosef. Are you following this? This is important. This reunification is what's going to bring the Geulah. In essence, if you're familiar with Judaism, you know this expression that Bechol Dor Vador there is a Messiah. Well, what does that mean? In every generation there is a Messiah? Now you say, well, that is a nonsense. Well, it's not nonsense at all. Let me explain to you what Chazal mean. They mean that in every generation there is a person who can ignite the house of Joseph, the Mashiach son of Joseph, to ignite and connect himself to Yaakov. In every generation there is a person who can make this spark happen in potential. He's not the Messiah son of David. Messiah son of David will complete the work. He is the Messiah son of Joseph who kind of get the things moving. Are you following what I'm telling you? Messiah son of Joseph has to come before Messiah son of David have to complete the work. Joseph, the suffering, rejected Messiah, like Joseph, has to be reunited with Israel before he will reveal himself as David and complete the job of the burning of the house of Esau. This is the challenge that we have today. Who is the Mashiach? Who is Mashiach ben Yosef? It's very simple. Whoever can burn the flesh, the klippah, whoever can burn the klippah of Esau is the Mashiach son of Yosef. Okay? Anybody who can take the tum'ah that is surrounded by Esau is the Mashiach. Let me ask you a question. Was Yaakov able to do it on his own? No. Yaakov tried and tried and tried. He bragged his brother, he gave him gift, and his brother still went to his own way. He was unsuccessful. And that's why we need the Mashiach today. Israel have to partner with the Mashiach in order to reveal the Tum'ah. You know, I'm greatly encouraged. I can tell you this. A lot of people write me an email. Messianic Jews, even Messianic Jewish rabbis, saying to me, what are you doing teaching Gentiles Torah? Let me tell you something. The only thing that can lift the Tum'ah from Esau is the Holy Torah. Nothing else can release us from the Tum'ah of Esau. I am greatly encouraged to see Orthodox Jews yet know who is merely Yosef teaching Goyim Torah. Yes, that's mean the Geulah is the better, because as they teach the Goyim the Torah, who do you think the Goyim going to give them in return? Yosef, Messiah son of Yosef. And that's the beautiful partnership between between Jews and Messianic believers, Messianic Jews and Messianic Gentiles all around. As you can see, I'm a little bit fired up about this topic. But please understand, it is not David who burned down the house of Esav. It is Messiah, son of Joseph, who do this. And that's why we need Messiah, son of Joseph, first before we can receive Messiah, son of David. This is important. Each and every one of us has the role right now not to sit, but to burn down like a candle. You represent this candle. Hanukkah is about the burning of the candle, the burning of the flesh, the burning for each and every one of us of the Yetzer Hara. That's why I call this message the inner Esav, because each and every one of us have a piece of Esav in him. And Hanukkah is a place that we need to take the candle. Don't burn yourself, okay? Don't do crazy things and say, Rabbi Shapira told me to take a candle and put it on my hand and burn myself. We're not crazy, okay? What I am saying to you, you need to bring the light of Mashiach, the light of Yosef. It's close enough to you that you can feel the burn, that you feel the flesh burning, that you know that you are one step forward to the Geulah. That was the problem with Yaakov. Yaakov said, nah, I don't need the light of Hanukkah. I'll see it from afar. It's okay. I have my shacharit duty from 6:30 in the morning to 8:30 in the morning. Then I'm going to go take a siesta, and then I do my mincha, and then I do my aravit, and then I say sei gesund. Some of us have this attitude. Don't fall into this attitude, friends. Mashiach ben Yosef, he is going to kindle, but he is calling the Goyim. He is calling the Goyim to return Yosef to Yaakov today, so we can light the fire and get the Tumah. Can you imagine thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of Goyim from every nation, tribe, and tongue that remove the klipa of Esav? Can you imagine what it's going to look like? Not when Israel waking up. Yeah, Israel going to wake up through Yosef. There are two different reconciliations, just as there are two different Geulot. Israel is going to see who is Yosef. The Goyim going to see who is Israel. That is going to be a glorious day. And a matter of fact, let me take you a little bit earlier in the portion. Last week portion, or a couple of weeks ago, a portion. This is why Yosef is so important. Yosef is the enabler of the light. He is the holder of the light. That's why Rashi said, the spark is not found in Yaakov. I'm sorry if you're Jewish and you're offended with me. I am sorry. We don't hold the light. Yosef holds the light. We hold the fire, but something like the wood, but something have to start it. Something have to start it, and that's only Mashiach. That's why a Jew that doesn't have Mashiach, a Jew who doesn't know who is the Mashiach, is a Jew without complete light. It's true. Without Yosef, we cannot do the things that we're called to do. Without Mashiach. It's like me, I'm starting a fire. It's a disaster. I have a fire pit, and I'm never able to start the fire. One time I decided to do some experiment. I bought one of those containers, that you spritz it, and what is called fire starter, fire igniter. And they tell you just put a little. I put the entire bottle. What do you think happened the second that I went? Tss. Yeah, my eyebrows were never been the same since this day. A giant fire just came at me. Are you following what I'm telling you? This fire igniter, this fire starter is the Mashiach. The wood inside is the house of Israel. Somebody need to give Israel the fire igniter. That's what Hanukkah is about. Reminding you, don't lose the fire igniter. Don't sit back on your fire igniter. Give Mashiach to somebody around you. Give Mashiach to a Jewish neshama. I'm challenging you to do this. And a matter of fact, look, what is the goal here? What is the goal here of Yosef? Vatikra et shmo, right? Remember, Yosef is born. Vatikra et shmo Yosef le'emor. Yosef Adonai li. God will give me sense. Ben acher. The Lord add to me another son. Now, interestingly enough, as you know, there's Shivim Panim LaTorah, there is another way to read this verse. Hasidic Midrash teaching us that when we read the word Ben Acher, we actually see a great paradox. You see, if a person is a Ben, the exact opposite of the word Ben is the word Acher. A Ben is like Israel, they call Banim. Acher is to say another. Another one that I don't really like. You know, in the context here of the prayer of the word is talking about the birth of Benjamin. But Chazal come and say something very different to us. They said that the point of these words, Ben Acher, it is the goal of Joseph. What is the goal of Joseph? To take the one who is called Acher. Acher is like somebody who is a despised, and to make him like a Ben. The goal of Joseph is to take somebody who is not part of the family and make him part of the family. Are you following what I am telling you? And that's happened only through the birth of Joseph. Yeshua came to the world to take those of you who are not Jewish and don't have a DNA of 100% Jewish and don't claim to be Jewish. Yes, you don't need to do DNA. Yes, you don't need to circumcise yourself. I'm sorry. Stop the shtuyot. Yosef came to take you from a status of acher, a nobody, and make you a son. This is what the job of Yosef in the world. He came to tell Esav, I have a message for you. You've been the estranged son. You have been the prodigal son, Esav. But God now is make you to be Ben. And that is the message that the Jewish people have to give to the nations in the last days. Take us from a status of Acherim and make us Banim. You don't have to be Jewish to be called Banim. By the way, only Israel called Banim. Banim Aitam LeElokim. Ben Elohim is Israel. The son is Israel. If you know Yosef, guess what? You're not Acher. You're Ben. Acher is a despised word. But isn't it interesting, the one that is called Ben Acher, Benjamin, the one who is called a son, he's the one who brought the reconciliation in the last day? Who is the one who brought the reconciliation? Joseph did not recognize his brothers until he saw Benjamin. Ben Acher. Another one. When we go from a status of Acherim to Banim, please understand, God, that means that if God make you a son by adoption, that means that He have a great role for you. He have a great calling to you. To do something. Not to sit, not vayashev, but to return the fire to Yosef, to return the fire from Yosef to Yaakov, right? Everybody want to reconcile and think about the reconciliation between Yaakov or between the brothers and Joseph, but that's not the real story. The real story is the reconciliation between Yosef and his father. The very first thing he asked after he revealed himself, Aod Avi Chai? Is my father alive? That's the first question he asked. In essence, what I am telling you today, if you are like Benjamin and you become Acher, who ultimately can become Ben, guess what? You have a task. You have a big job. God is not done with you. You know the one who is called Ben in the text, according to Ben Acher or Kol Acher, please understand, every time we see the word Acher, it's the most negative word you can find in the text. Is somebody who is rejected and despised. You and I are called Banim today, sons and daughters, because somebody else has taken upon himself the title of Acher. Do you know who it is? The book of Jeremiah tells us who it is. Let's turn together to Sanhedrin 98b. Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, the Holy One, blessed be his name, is destined to, according from Jeremiah chapter 9, chapter, hold on a second, let me give you the reference. It's Jeremiah chapter, excuse me, I want to give you the correct reference here. I think it's in Jeremiah, but check me out. Jeremiah chapter 9 verse 30, I believe. Check it out. He is called David Acher, another David, for the Jewish. Oh, Jeremiah 39, it's on my screen. I should just read my screen, I guess. I even put it for you. 30 verse 9. For the Jewish people as the Messiah, as it is stated. And they shall serve the Lord their God, and the David their king, whom I am established for them. It is also said, I establish, but I will establish. He indicated that the name of the future king will be David. Rav Papa said, but it is written, and my servant David shall be the prince forever. Yechezkel 37. Indicating that the king David himself will rule over the Jewish people. Our sage says, they will rule in tandem. What? We're going to have two messiahs? Like an emperor and a viceroy. The Messiah will be king and David will be second in command. Are you following what I'm telling you? There are going to be another David Acher. And the question you need to ask yourself, how come the Mashiach is called another David? Why is he called another David? Why is he called David Acher? The reason he's called Acher because he took his status as the Son of God and he became Acher when he went upon the tree, so that you and I will become, that we will become sons. It's interesting that he used the word emperor. Chazal said, okay, are you ready? Hold on to your seat now. They said that it represents a Caesar. It's where they get the Hebrew word Caesari, a C-section. They said that the way that the Mashiach going to come to the world is through a supernatural birth. And then they quote Isaiah chapter 9. Ki yeled yulad lanu ben nitan lanu v'yeh shmo pele yoetz al gibor avi atzar shalom. 8 names, 8 lights of Hanukkah. Are you following what I'm telling you? He is going to be like a Caesar because he is going to be from Rome. He became Acher. He became an Edomite, like Edom, like Rome, like a Christian for you and I. So that you and I will be called Banim. He is called the Acher. Just as Benjamin is like a Ben Acher. He took a status of Ben and not Acher for you and I. We cannot afford to sit like Yaakov. We owe everything to the Mashiach. As a matter of fact, Rabbi Uri Shriki, a non-Messianic Orthodox rabbi, said this. According to the language of the sages, the word Acher is somebody who is a Fikos. A Fikos is somebody who left the faith. Somebody who did not left the faith. And this is the name our sages is giving to Elisha ben Avuya. You remember the story of 4 men who walk into the Pardes? Go read it. Tractate Chagiga. Who left Judaism. He is called the Acher, the other David, also meaning that the one who will be restored, the kingdom is Israel, will not be liked by the rabbis. He will be called Acher. Wow. The one who will restore the kingdom to Israel is one who is going to be hated by the religious authority. Who is this? Who can you think in human history is the one who is called Acher today, who is so hated by the Jewish people more than anybody else, by the rabbinical authority? It is Yeshua. And the reason he's hated, because he's take anybody that is called Acherim, and he gave them the status of the Banim. I'm not saying this. The book of Galatians telling this. Look at that. It says, but when the fullness of time come, right? We're talking about the fullness of the Jews, the fullness of the Gentile, and the fullness of time. What's going to happen to the Goyim in Vayeshev, in the Geulah? God sent out his son, born of a woman, and was born under law, to free those under a law, so we might receive adoption as what? Banim. Now, because you are a Banim, God sent the Ruach for his son into our heart, who cry out, Abba, Father, Avinu. So you are no longer a slave, but you are called a Banim. And if you're a son, and you are also have a heir to God. Can I explain this to you? That Yeshua paid the greatest price, that each and every one of you who is not physically Yaakov will be getting the status of the Banim. He has done it for a purpose, that you will be a broker and a mediator between Yaakov, Israel, and Yosef. You are to be the one who hold this little canister of this really explosive stuff. Well, let me use another analogy. I don't want people to say, go get explosive. Of this fiery stuff. And you pour it on the wood. You pour it on the wood. And then you're waiting for this great spark to come. Are you following this? That was the problem from Yaakov. He gave up on his brother. He didn't continue the work of Avraham Avinu. Look at what it says later in Ovadia chapter 1. It says, and alu Moshiach behar Zion. And the Savior shall come up in the Mount of Zion to touch the Mount of Esav. Here you go. That's the fire touching Esav. And the kingdom shall be to the Lord's. Ve'ayta le'Adonai amelucha. And this day the ultimate Geulah is coming forward. Are you following what I'm telling you? Notice something amazing. He didn't say the Savior came. He said the Saviors came. Why did the text say the Saviors? What does it mean? We don't have one Mashiach? We don't have one Goel? We don't have one Moshiach? No, we have many Moshiachim. I am looking at you right now. You are a Moshiach. You are the picture of a Mashiach. And when you go up to Atzion, you're starting the fire. This is the few verses before that we heard about the fire. To prepare yourself. I encourage each and every one of you in Hanukkah to go to your Christian brothers and don't judge them, okay? But bring the fire of God a little closer to them. Bring the fire of God a little closer to your Christian friends. And asking them, what do they do to reconcile Yaakov in Israel with Joseph? Challenge your pastors, challenge your leader, challenge Christians, because Christians are not doing their jobs. I am sorry, but praying for the peace of Jerusalem, saying your tithe for Jerusalem is not enough. The job of the Christians today is to remove through the fire and light of Hanukkah, the klipa of the Tum'ah. That's what we need today. You already, Christians, I'm talking to you, especially now non-Jews. You have the fire. Use it. Use it against yourself. Each and every one of us should take the Hanukkah candle and put it close to our heart. So we ourselves will not take the image of Esav, but let Esav fall out. And then we can give Yosef to our own people. You see, Benjamin have to go through a change. Benjamin represents the Messianic movement today. And look what it says when Benjamin is born. It says, and it came to pass, again, Rachel is dying. As her soul was in department, as she dying, she said, I'm going to call this son Ben-Oni. But Yaakov said, that is not going to be his name. His name is going to be Ben Yamin, the son of the Right, I wanted to notice something. She wanted to call him the Ben Oni, okay? The word Oni here is kind of, I don't know how to even translate it. Oni. He's the son who brought something very negative. It's a very negative thing. So the son who brought death. But here is Yaakov. He said, no, this is the son who is going to bring life. I'm going to ask right now the body of Messiah, what are we going to bring to the world today? What are we going to bring to the world in Hanukkah? Where are we going to bring to the world in Hanukkah the Mashiach, who has brought the pogrom and the Inquisition and the hatred toward the Jewish people? Or are we going to bring the son of the right hand to Mashiach? This is really what he called us to be the right hand of the Mashiach, to prepare to this giant bonfire. You see, when the house of Jacob does his job, they cannot do their job without Joseph. Israel cannot be complete without Joseph. And Joseph represents us today, okay? We must burn our flesh. Remember what Joseph did? There is also here the brothers in this story, right? The story of the brothers have to be burned from the inside out. They have to be changed from the inside out. They have to drop their lashonot ra'ot. This entire calamity is starting because lashon hara. Have you committed lashon hara? Have we committed lashon hara against anybody? Burn your flesh. Burn your tongue. Burn your lips. When those happen, when those things happen, we understand the ultimate job of Yosef. See, Yosef's job, in the end of the day, Mashiach's job, is to turn everybody to sons. To take the entire human race, not just Jewish people, and to turn them to sons. But he had to burn himself first. He had to suffer first. He suffered already, so that you and I will be able right now to take the light of Mashiach without truly just burn and put it to our hearts and go through a circumcision of our hearts. The question for Hanukkah from Parashat Vayeshev: how far are you willing to go for the reconciliation of Yaakov and Esav? How far are you willing to go to burn the candles? Look at this from Brachot 64. It says, Rabbi Ashi said to Rav, Tzadikim, the righteous, the true tzaddiks, there are people that do not have a rest. Tzadikim have rest neither in this world or in the world to come. As in both worlds, they are consistently progressing. As it said, they go from strength to strength. Every one of them appears before God in Zion. I would like to give you this word for Hanukkah. May you go strength to strength. May you not rest. May the avodah that you do will exceed the avodah of your neighbor. May you do this avodah for the sake of this world and for the sake of the world to come. Don't be passive. God has taken you from a status of acher, and make you a status of a ben. And this status of ben, of sonship, carried a great role, a great responsibility of taking this light, the light of Yosef, and give it back to Yaakov. Yes, this way Yaakov and Mashiach, Israel and the Messiah, together can complete the Geulah. And in this way, all of Israel shall be saved. The fullness of the Gentiles and the fullness of the Jews have to take place at the same time. And God is calling you now not to rest and not to slumber. So when you light those Hanukkiahs on Sunday night, I want you to remember this and ask God to burn the Isav, the inner Isav. This inner Isav was also Isav Yaakov, you see. Yaakov did not want to truly reconcile. And in this way he was truly like Isav. He just wanted his peace and quiet. In essence, what I'm telling you, that this equation that I have given you at the beginning, Machloket, Galut, reconciliation, and Geula, go through it again. Have an argument for the sake of heaven. Go through Galut, go through reconciliation, go to Geula. Do it again and again and again. With your family, with your brothers and sisters, in the church, in the synagogue, until all of Israel shall be saved. This is your job, and this is the mandate, and that's why you hold Mashiach today. If you're blessed by this, consider sharing this teaching. If I offended anybody, then you know what? Good. Take it to the Lord. God wants to use you as the great fire starter. Wishing you Chag Sameach.